This year I have been using this bingo card to help me read through my giant physical TBR. So that's what we're gonna do today. Let's just jump right into it and pick our first read. B14. Okay, I have this. This is a book set somewhere you've never been. And I will say I haven't been a lot of places, so I feel like this will be pretty easy. I ended up pulling out 3 books where I haven't been to the location that any of these books take place. The first book I have is Love and Luck. This is the second book in the Love and Gelato series. I'm kind of leaning towards this one right now, and it says Addie is visiting Ireland. That's literally the first couple of words on the back of this. Never been to Ireland. I've actually never really like left the continent, so. And then I have The Girls in the Stilt House, which I think this takes place in Baton Rouge, and I have not been there, so this is an option, although I'm not really sure I'm in the mood for this. The back is like kind of confusing me. I'm like, what is this book even about? I don't know. And then I have City of Darkness and Light, which has been on my TBR for a really long time, and I am thinking about reading this one. I feel like this one and Love and Luck is a big contender. The only thing, it kind of feels like cheating with this one because they live in New York, and I've been to New York many times, but they moved from New York City to Paris, and I've never been to Paris. So is that cheating? Like, not really, because I feel like only the beginning of the book will be in New York City. I also forgot to mention that this will get me a bingo on my bingo card, which is so exciting. This is though the second bingo that I've gotten on my bingo card, so it does feel a little bit less special, but it's still fun. I made myself a little strawberry banana smoothie, and I'm only on page 26 of this book, but honestly it's a little bit more complicated than I thought it was going to be. But I didn't read the back of this book. I just kind of like skimmed it to see where it was located, even though I pretty much like already knew that they were gonna be in Paris. But I didn't realize that she moves from New York to Paris without her husband, and she's not like really moving. I had just assumed that she was moving to Paris with her husband, but no, she's just going to visit because her husband is a detective and they're trying to escape New York City because they are being targeted because her husband basically like locked up this super powerful man, and so now like the people that are like backing him are trying to come after like their family. And then I haven't gotten to this part yet, but on the back of the book it says that our main character, who her name is Molly, she moves to Paris with her son, but she's going there to like live with her friends, and when she gets to Paris her friends are nowhere to be found. And I'm assuming that's the mystery, but I kind of thought that the mystery would more circle around who was attacking her and her husband. Obviously I was wrong, so that part of the book has not happened yet, but I feel like it's gotta be pretty soon where she's gonna move to Paris, but we'll see. So far it kind of is giving me cozy mystery vibes, which is fine by me because I've been getting into the fall spirit. So I feel like a cozy mystery kind of goes hand in hand with fall, but we will see. Nothing crazy so far. I have just made it to page 134 in this book, so I'm almost halfway through it, and I haven't been loving it so far, which I hate to say. Like, I hate when I don't like a book and it's in a reading vlog because I just don't like to talk bad about a book, you know? And it's not that this book is horrible, but it is reminding me a lot of the Paris apartment, and I can't believe I didn't get that vibe from the synopsis before I started the book. But I didn't really like the Paris apartment. I can't remember if I rated it a 2-star or 2.5 star. I can't remember, but I just remember really not liking that book. And this one gives me the Paris apartment vibes, but also kind of mixed with the cozy mystery because she has not been in Paris for that long. And we're, like I said, almost halfway through the book. And I also feel like not a ton has happened so far that isn't on the back of the book. So I kind of wish the back of the book didn't have as much information on it. But I'm really hopeful for the last half of the book because, like I said, a lot of what's happened so far has been on the back of the book. So I feel like the last half of the book is definitely going to pick up, and I don't really know where the story is going to go. But at the same time, I'm like, do I care? And I don't want to sound like I'm not trying to sound mean, basically is what I'm trying to say. I'm just kind of debating my feelings on this book. I don't think I'm gonna DNF it because I don't love DNFing books, but if I'm still not liking it by maybe like tomorrow morning, maybe I'll think about it. But I don't feel like it's bad enough for me to DNF it. I don't know. I rarely DNF books, to be honest, but I'm gonna go read this. I might take a break and meal prep a little bit later. I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I need to shower because I did go work out, but hopefully I can read a good chunk of this today. it is time to talk about City of Darkness and Light. I finished this book last night in bed and I didn't really like it, to be honest. And I feel like we kind of all saw this coming. Like, I wasn't in love with this book the entire time, but the first half just felt very, very repetitive. And then when something finally got discovered, it felt like the story just took another turn. And it wasn't really a turn that I liked because I felt like we were on one plot line and then we just immediately like shifted to a different one, and I just felt like I don't love when books do that, you know? And that is something I already knew about myself. But I will say kudos to this book because I did not guess the ending. I didn't guess the plot twist or any of that. I will say it's definitely more of like a cozy mystery than it is a thriller, and I don't think I would recommend this book. I just feel like there's better out there, at least for my personal taste and personal preferences. But I think I might give this a 2.5 star, and I feel bad about giving it that low of a rating, but I just didn't love it. But that's okay. Not every book has to be for me. So we're gonna move on to the next book. We're back in front of my never-ending TBR to pick my next book. Sorry if the lighting's a little weird right now. The sun has yet to rise, and I specifically set my books out right here so that I could use the natural lighting. But anyway, let's pick the next book. G49, don't have that. I-20. Oh, I have that. That's actually a reread, which is really exciting. I don't have a ton of rereads over here because, I mean, it's my physical TBR, but I do have a couple. I remember a lot of the Cinder series was on here, but I pretty much did all of those rereads because I wanted to reread the beginning of the series before I like finished the entire series. So let's see if there's any other rereads I have over here. Okay, I actually have a good amount of rereads over here, but I just pulled a couple to give me some options. Even though with this one, I think I know what I want to read, but let me just show you my options anyway. So I have To Kill a Mockingbird. I wanted to reread this because the first time I read it, I was literally in middle school and I haven't read it since. So I feel like my opinions have probably changed on this book since then. I also have Ghost at a Watchman over here, which I've never read that one, and I wanted to reread To Kill a Mockingbird before reading Ghost at a Watchman. I don't know why, because I'm pretty sure they're two separate stories. I don't know what my thought process was. But then I have Orphan Train. I can't remember what this book is about at all, although I'm pretty sure it's historical fiction, and I'm pretty sure I really, really liked it. Again, I believe this is a book I read in middle school, and I just like don't remember anything about it, so I'm like, oh, let me just reread that. The next book is actually the first book in a series. This is Asylum. It looks really scary, and maybe it is, but when I read it, I also think this is a book I read in middle school. I just remember sitting and reading it in one sitting because I loved it so much. But it is part of a series and I don't have the rest of the series, so I'm wanting to reread this first book, and if I still like it, I want to buy the rest of the series and read the whole series. So I think this is actually the book that we are going to start with, and also since it's already September and I'm really feeling the fall vibes, this is just like reminding me of spooky season, so it'll be perfect if I end up really liking this book. Then I can read the rest of the series during spooky season. So let's start our next book. It's also pretty short and it does have pictures in here, but at the same time, I do a lot of reading at night, so I'm not sure how much reading we're actually going to get done, because if this is too scary to read at night, I'm gonna have to read it during the day, during the daylight hours. I just made it to page 61 in this book, and I feel like if I was reading this book for the first time, I would probably not be obsessed with it, simply because it is written very, very YA, and I'm pretty sure that's the age range, so like that's not a bad thing by any means. But since I read it for the first time when I was that age range, I was obsessed with this book. So I definitely recommend it for anyone in that age range, like, I don't know, middle school age. But basically you have our main character, Dan, and he's going to this summer program that this university holds where he can like take these college classes during the summer. And there's a big group of students and there's something going on with the dorms. I think it says that they're closed or something like that. So they have to stay in what used to be an old asylum that the school had kind of like absorbed and like bought out all the buildings for. And so they have to stay there, and immediately on the first night there, Dan discovers this photograph in his desk, which kind of leads him to spiral into exploring a little bit more and just figuring out the history history of the asylum. I feel like this book is just so bingeable, not only because it is YA, but also just because the chapters are super short. And like, look, this is just 2 whole pages dedicated to like a picture and the chapter title. And there's a lot of pictures in this book, which I feel like that is the creepy part to me, is the pictures. And I feel like that is the only reason I might not be able to read this at night. I don't know. I feel like I will know more once I get deeper into the book, but I'm definitely enjoying it so far. It's just a fun reread to me. I'm not sure yet if I would recommend it for someone my age, but I definitely recommend it for, like I said, like that middle school age range, maybe even like 5th grade, depending on maturity, because like I said, I feel like this might scare some people, you know, aka me. I just got back from the gym. That's why I look a bit like a mess. But I actually walked on the treadmill and read, which I haven't done that in a while, but I'm now on page 196, so I'm over halfway through this book. And I think the last time I updated, I said that this book was feeling very YA and that I wasn't sure if I really was loving it. I don't feel that way anymore at all. That is no longer bothering me because I'm just so interested in finding out what is going on, because Dan is basically trying to uncover the history of this asylum, and I'm just so intrigued of the history and the backstory, and like things are just getting kind of weird. Like there's some like underlying things going on that are like not normal, like almost like I don't know. So I'm just very excited for all of that to get uncovered. It's been so long that I've read this book that I don't remember what happened at all. Like not even a tiny little bit, which is wild. Maybe that's because I read it in one sitting. I don't know. And also I read it in the middle of the night, so that could definitely be why. I don't know. But I definitely don't think that we're going to get all of the answers in this book because this is a series. It's 3 books and there's some novellas as well, but I don't know if I'll read the novellas. Kind of sucks because my library doesn't have these books at all, so I definitely need to buy them if I want to continue the series. And so far, I definitely want to continue the series. We'll see, because there's still a lot left. Anything could happen at this point. There's also a subplot of romance in this book, which is not my favorite part of the book, but it doesn't bother me by any means. It also just feels very surface level at this point, so maybe we'll dive deeper into that. Maybe we'll get that more in other books. I'm also not a huge fan of some of the pictures that are in this book. Some of them just don't look very realistic, and I'm like, maybe I just don't need to look at the pictures for that long, you know what I mean? And it's not all of the pictures, it's just some of the pictures don't look super realistic, but also like, I don't remember having a problem with that when I was younger and reading this book. And this book is for a younger audience, so it's like maybe they just assume the younger people aren't going to be looking at it that deeply. Also, maybe just back then, I mean, it was copyrighted in 2013, so digital photography has definitely gotten better then. Well, I say photography. These are definitely like generated images, and that's definitely gotten better since then. So I feel like that note was probably just because I'm used to like a higher quality of like those, not animated pictures. I don't know how you would describe those pictures. I don't know, but it's definitely putting me on edge. So it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. I literally have gotten spooked multiple times now. Like there was a literal jump scare in the book that I gasped and like jumped at. So the pictures are definitely working, the vibe is there. I'm 100% enjoying this book, and I feel like I can maybe finish this book tonight. I don't know, but like I said, I just came back from the gym, so I want to shower, I want to get my pajamas, and I honestly just want to get into bed and maybe finish this book tonight. But like I said, it's been scaring me a little bit, so I'm like, is this a good idea to read this tonight? I don't know, but I'm probably going to do it anyway. We need to talk. This lighting, oh my gosh, this looks crazy. You're gonna have to bear with me because it's obviously dark out, so I look a little crazy in this lighting. I should honestly probably just get a ring light eventually, but at the same time, I'm like, would I be too lazy to use it? Potentially. Oh, this is so much better. Let's chat like this. You're gonna have to excuse the fact that I'm in pajamas. I have this giant pimple patch on my face. I'm like, I was gonna say I'm ready for the bed, but that is not even true because I just finished this book and I think I am way too riled up to ever go to sleep ever again. I am so on edge after finishing this book. I'm so like, every noise I hear, I'm like, what's that? Which is particularly concerning because my neighbors are being extra loud tonight. I'm just like so on edge after that. I definitely would have rated this a 5-star the first time I read this book. Now, I don't know if it's a 5-star, it might be a 4-star. I don't know. I don't feel like I'm gonna like officially change my rating for this book because this is one of those books from my childhood that I'm just like, childhood is that? I guess you are a child in middle school. Anyways, this is just one of those books from my childhood that I'm like, it's a core memory. Like me reading this book in the middle of the night, staying up all night to read this book is a core memory. And even though I didn't stay up all night to read this book, it is well past my bedtime and I don't think I'm going to go to sleep anytime soon. I actually think we're gonna go pick my next book because I need to distract myself from the way that this book ended. I'm gonna pull a Joey from Rents and I'm gonna put this book in the freezer. Even though it wasn't that scary, I am such a baby when it comes to things like this. Like anything even remotely scary or like anything like that, I cannot read it. I just can't handle it. So me reading this, finishing it at night, hey, it's dark out, that's a big feat for me, okay? And obviously I just really enjoyed this book and I wanted to finish it tonight. And I'm definitely glad I did. But let's go distract myself from this book and pick our next book. I'll give my final rating at the end of the video because I don't know if I'm definitely going to keep this as a 5-star, if I'm going to move it to a 4. I don't know. We'll see. It was so good though. And I definitely want to read the rest of the series. I'm hoping I can find them maybe on like thrift books or something. I don't know. But let's go pick my next book. Let's not think about adding to the physical TBR right now. That is not why we're here. Guys, keep me in check. Or don't. That's what, mommy? We are back to pick our final book. Hopefully this won't take me that much time because I am so on edge after finishing that book. I'm like, I need something that is going to just quickly distract me from being scared or I'm not gonna be able to sleep tonight, okay? So let's pick our next read. N35, don't have that. I-19. I have that. That is a book from my 2025 TBR, which is exciting because I actually don't have that many books left on my 2025 TBR. I actually keep my 2025 TBR in a little stack just readily available for me so I can easily distinguish between it. It's all of these books and then it's also the complete collection of fairy tales, which I'm not gonna read that because I feel like that's just a book that I can't just sit down and binge that. Like I just kind of read some of the fairy tales every now and then, you know? And then I also have The Ride of a Lifetime, which I'm almost done with that book, but I don't really love it so far. I'll save my final review for when I finish the book, but so far it's not my favorite. And then I have 4 more books here that are on my 2025 TBR. I have Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen, The Help, The Lost Man, and The Scorch Trials. I'm not entirely sure which one I'm in the mood for. I want to say it's one of these two. So either The Lost Man or The Help. I'm not sure which one though. Let me decide and then I'll come back. Guys, I've been sitting here for the longest time trying to decide which book I want to read because I kept trying to basically convince myself to read The Lost Man, and simply because I keep telling my boyfriend I'm gonna read this book, I'm gonna read it because he read it and I want us to like be able to talk about it, you know? And it's been on my TBR for like 2 years, so I really need to get to this. But for some reason, The Help is really calling my name right now. Like out of the 2 of these books, I'm like, I think I would just rather read The Help. This one's more of like a mystery, and I did technically just read a thriller, but there was like mystery aspects to it. And then the first book I picked up in this video was a mystery, so I'm like, do I really want to read another mystery right now? I feel like no. I feel like I think I want to pick this book up, but I feel guilty picking this book up when I need to read this one. Like it's been on my TBR for so long, but I'm sure I will pick this one eventually. I mean, that's what this whole TBR Takedown series is for, is so that I can start getting through all the books that are just sitting on my physical TBR. So we're gonna do that one book at a time, and I am going to read The Help. I just convinced myself this is my next read. Okay, let me go read in bed and hopefully distract myself enough to be able to actually fall asleep. I don't know. I got a bad idea. As you guys know, I started The Help. I'm already 60 pages into it, which looks and feels like I barely made a dent in this book, which, I mean, it is pretty thick, so I guess I kind of haven't really made a dent in this book, but I don't think I said anything about this book. It kind of feels silly to explain it because it is so popular. I think it literally had like 2.2 million reads or ratings, reviews, something like that on Goodreads. Let me look. It's also a movie, so I feel like a lot of people have probably seen the movie as well. Oh my gosh, I was wrong. It has even more than that. It's almost at 3 million ratings, and it has an overall 4.47 stars on Goodreads, which I feel like that is crazy. I really never see a book with that many ratings and have that high of an average star. But I will give a quick synopsis in case you haven't heard of this book at all. Basically what I've gathered so far is that it is set in the 1960s. I think it might be like 1960 1962. Yeah, it is 1962. And so far we are getting two different point of views from the Hell, which during this time in America there was a lot of segregation. And it definitely discusses that. It also kind of mentions Rosa Parks. It says Mrs. Parks, like referring to Rosa Parks while they're on the bus, which I thought that was kind of cool. And it also talks about like the separate bathrooms and separate grocery stores and things like that. And it's super interesting because both of our main characters are like the Hell, and I feel like they both have really different experiences, so it's interesting that we get both of their point of views. Oh, okay. I'm actually rereading the back of the book because it's been so long since I read the back of the book. I don't think I've read the back of the book since I purchased it, but it says, together these seemingly different women joined to work on a project that could forever alter their destinies and the life of a small town, to write in secret a tell-all book about what it's really like to work as a black maid in the white homes of the South. Despite the terrible risks they will have to take and the sometimes humorous boundaries they will have to cross, these three women unite with one intention: hope for a better day. Okay, interesting. So I'm assuming we are going to eventually get a second point of view. We've only been in the two point of views, but like I said, I'm literally barely made a dent into this book at this point. I will say there's something I already know about me, and it is that I really do not like dialect written into books, and it 100% makes sense. Like in every book that I've read that has dialect, it 100% makes sense. That's not what I'm saying. I just feel like I don't love to actually sit down and read it, so I might try the audiobook, but as of right now I definitely just want to sit, relax, and read my book. But I will say I'm having weird feelings about this book because earlier in the day I was like thinking about this book when I wasn't picking it up, when I wasn't reading it, and now that I have sat down to actually read the book, I'm like, I don't really feel like reading. I don't really want to read this book. I want to read something else. So it's kind of a weird feeling because I don't normally think about a book unless I'm allowed to sit down and actually read it. Like for me, when I think about a book and I'm not actively reading it, that is normally a sign that I really love the book, that it's a 5-star. But then on the other side of things, when I don't feel like picking up a book, that's normally my sign that I don't really like the book. So I'm very conflicted right now on what's going on. Like my feelings wise, not what's in the book. I know what's going on in the book. But anyways, I'm gonna sit down and read. Hopefully my next update I will have some stronger, more concrete feelings. I've made it to chapter 17, which is almost halfway through this book, and honestly the only reason I got this far is because I've been listening to the audiobook at work, and I'm actually really liking the audiobook. And I can't remember if I said this in the last clip, but I had an inkling that I would really enjoy the audiobook because I don't love dialect in books, and I don't really know why I don't love dialect. I just don't, even though most of the time the dialect makes sense to the story, and in this book it makes sense to the story. So my suspicion was correct. I do really enjoy the audiobook. Also, something funny that I just randomly thought of because I was talking about the dialect is that they call it Coca-Cola, like not Coca-Cola. But while I was listening to this book, I just kept thinking of random things that I wanted to talk about, wanted to mention. So hopefully this update isn't all over the place. I am going to keep listening to it though because it is a perfect weather out today. So I'm gonna go on a walk and listen to this audiobook, and then I'm gonna switch to physically reading it because I randomly really want chocolate milk. So I want to make a glass of chocolate milk and read this book later tonight. But anyway, let me tell you my thoughts. First off, I think Albadine might be my favorite character. I'm not 100% sure if I'm pronouncing her name correctly because I think I was pronouncing it wrong in my head, and then when I listened to the audiobook I was like, oh, that's how you pronounce it. But she is, I think, my favorite character, and at this point in the book I would truly be so proud of her, and like she just feels like such a real person. I think that's part of what hits me so hard about historical fiction is like, yeah, these people didn't exist. This story might not be 100% true, but it is based on true events. Like similar things could have happened. Like a situation like this book could have happened. Like these people, because it's historical fiction, they just feel so real, and that's what gets me. And also obviously there's some very rough things going on in this book, and listening to that happen, I genuinely felt sick to my stomach, and I still feel a little bit queasy, like even just thinking about everything that's going on. And like I'm almost like questioning, am I going into a dark place? Like, but at the same time I'm like, this story is so important and it's constantly something I'm thinking about even when I'm not actively reading it or listening to it. Although I will say I feel like 90% of today, my waking hours, I have either been listening to this book or thinking about this book, and I don't think I even realized it. I just randomly thought about how attached I was to these characters, and this book also just makes me me so thankful that I don't live in this time. So with all that being said, I am going to listen to this book and then I'll switch back to physically reading it because I am enjoying physically reading it. I feel like sometimes when I'm watching YouTube and whoever I'm watching will like switch to the audiobook, I'm always like, does that mean you're not liking this? No, I am still liking this book for sure. It's just because I do work like a typical 9 to 5 and I like having something to listen to while I work. The audiobook was just available and I was like, yes, that just worked out perfectly for me, which is why, like I said, I want to switch back to physically reading after I go on my little fun walk. We need to talk because I didn't mean to finish this book without updating you guys one more time, but I did. I finished it probably like 30 minutes ago and I truly meant to update one more time before finishing it, but I was like, okay, I only have one more chapter left. I might as well just finish it. And honestly, none of my thoughts have really changed since the last time I spoke to you guys. I did really enjoy this book. I think as of right now, I'm gonna give it a 4.5 star. It's not a 5 star just because there's a couple things in this book that really bothered me. I just realized I'm like not even close to being in the center of the frame. Hey, there's my cat. Hey, what are you doing? Anyway, what I was trying to say was that there's a couple things holding this book back from being a 5 star, and if you've read this book or you've seen the movie, one of the things that I just can't stop thinking about is the pie, and that is all that I can say about that because it would be a spoiler, but if you know, you know, and that has made me so uncomfortable, and I would be able to look past it if it was mentioned once in the book, but it was mentioned so many times in the last little chunk of the book that I was like, okay, I can't get past this. I'm so uncomfortable and I fear this is going to stick with me for forever because of how uncomfortable I am. But who knows, hey, maybe I might get over it soon. But obviously, other than that, I really enjoyed the book. I did like most of the characters for the most part. I mean, you could tell which characters you were supposed to like and which ones you weren't, and I feel like I definitely followed along with that path. And I did want to mention, I know I was talking about the dialect earlier, but as I read this book, the less and less it started to bother me, and the more I actually really liked it and really appreciated how it was written. So that was a good turn of events that I wanted to mention. But with that being said, I will let you guys know if my thoughts change on this book because I do want to think on it a little bit more. It might end up being a 5 star. Maybe I can overlook the whole cake thing. I just am not sure. I just remembered there was also something at the very end of the book. I think it happens in the last chapter or the chapter before the last chapter that I guessed would happen. Like, I thought it was really obvious and I really didn't like that that happened. It made sense to the story, but I didn't like that I could guess it that easily. So that kind of sucked because I think that might have been the only thing that I guessed in this book. I'm not 100% sure, but from memory, I think that's the only thing that I guessed, but I still did really enjoy this one. And then as you saw, I also read 2 more books in this video. Started off the video with The City of Darkness and Light, and I did not like this book. I think I rated it a 2 star, and I'm definitely staying strong to the 2 star. I don't think I would recommend this book, which sucks because it sounded really interesting. And maybe if you liked The Paris Apartment and you're looking for a cozy mystery similar to The Paris Apartment, maybe you'll like this one, but I didn't love it. I just felt like the structure was kind of weird. And then I also did a reread in this video, which was Asylum, and now I am so excited to read the rest of the series. And honestly, this didn't feel like a reread at all because I didn't remember what happened in this book at all, which is interesting because this was definitely one of my 5 star reads when I was younger. But I think if I was reading it for the first time right now, I would rate it maybe like a 4 or 4.5 just because it is very YA. So if you're in the YA age range, I 100% recommend this book. Or also if you're someone like me and you get scared really easily, I feel like you might like this book as well because it is pretty spooky, but it's not like super scary because, like I said, it's meant for like teenagers and I don't know, what is YA? 13 to like 22 maybe? I don't know, something like that. But anyway, really liked this book and now I need to go buy the rest of the series because it was so good. But that is it for this video. We got through 3 more of the books on my physical TBR, but as you can see, there is still a lot left behind me. I think I still have over 100 books on my physical TBR. So there are more of these videos to come, don't you worry. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!